Welcome to the deep dive. We jump into a topic, explore the research, and pull out the key info you need. Fast, thorough.
That's the idea.
You're here to learn. We know your time's valuable, so let's get straight to it.
Let's do it.
Today, it's the sling, an ancient tool, surprisingly versatile, with a massive history. We're using Cliff Savage's Sling for sport and survival as our main source here.
Exactly. And what's really striking about the sling is just how adaptable it's been, how long it's stuck around,
So our mission today,
is to really dig into what made it so widespread. You know, its advantages, how to actually use one effectively, how simple they are to make.
the ammo, the applications.
Right, all of it. It goes way beyond just like ancient history. It even pops up in modern context, which is pretty interesting.
Okay, let's rewind then. History. Savage says it's one of the oldest tools, period. Prehistoric.
Oh yeah, super old. Think animal hide strips. Wider bit in the middle for a stone. Dead simple.
Almost too simple, you'd think.
But that's the genius, isn't it? Early humans figured out pretty fast, hey, I can throw things further and harder this way.
For hunting, defense.
Yeah, all the above.
Yeah.
Hunting, warding off predators, animals, and other humans, even just, knocking fruit out of trees.
Yeah.
It was basic survival tech.
And it wasn't just some fad, it really lasted.
Absolutely. Savage makes the point it was a key weapon right up until gunpowder changed everything. And
Once
even
it's-
then,
they disappear.
nope, still used in places today, Northern Ireland, the Philippines. The source mentions those specifically. That tells you something.
It really does. But finding the very first one is tough, I guess. Because they were made of.
Perishable stuff.
Bruh.
Leather, plant fibers, they just rot away. But the evidence we do have suggests at least 10,000 years of use, minimum,
Wow. So it's up there with like the spear or basic stone tool.
pretty much. Foundational stuff.
The source mentions the bola too. I've always wondered about those. Are they related?
Yeah, you could say it's a kind of cousin. An early variation on the ranged weapon idea. 3 ropes, weights on the end.
Stones or metal balls.
Right, you whirl it, throw it, and it tangles up the legs of whatever you're hunting. Pretty clever and reusable.
Okay, fast forward a bit. Ancient warfare, the Balearic slingers always come up. Savage calls them elite light infantry. What was their deal?
They were basically specialists. Their whole culture was built around the sling. Kids trained from, childhood.
So they got incredibly good.
Unbelievably good. Accuracy, rate of fire. They could lay down a serious barrage. And they weren't just chucking rocks.
No.
They had shaped clay missiles, lead bullets, sometimes even carved messages onto them.
Messages? Like what?
Names, taunts for the enemy, catch, stuff like that. Imagine getting hit by one of those. Bit of psychological warfare, maybe.
Definitely adds insult to injury. So why was the sling so popular then? They had bows, right? Swords?
Several big reasons. Range was one. A good slinger could supposedly match or even outrange a bowman. Maybe.
Bailey. Outrange a bow.
The sources suggest it, yeah. And then there's ammo.
Just rocks everywhere.
Exactly. Free, unlimited ammo you can just pick up. And sometimes, believe it or not, a sling stone could actually punch through armor. Concentrated impact.
So gunpowder arrives, the sling fades, mostly, but not entirely.
Right. It found niches. Savage mentions 20th century urban warfare, which sounds surprising.
How does that work?
Well, think situations where guns are restricted or you need something quiet and concealable. If you need something, and all you have are basic materials. A sling is easy to make, ammo's everywhere. A last resort, maybe, but still an option.
Okay, makes sense. We've got the history. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty, the weapon itself, basic parts.
Super simple, really. You've got a cord, right? Leather, maybe sinew traditionally. In the middle, there's a pouch, a sort of pocket. That's the socket.
Where the stone goes.
Yep. And then 2 cords coming off that socket. One end has a loop that's the retention shank. It goes around your finger or hand.
And the other.
That's the release cord, the one you let go of.
And you just put a stone in, swing it around, let go of one cord.
That's the essence of it. But don't let the simplicity fool you. The power you can generate is, well, it's significant.
How significant?
Savage talks about range comparable to arrows, sometimes more, and the impact force. Enough to break bones.
Seriously.
Break bones.
Oh, okay.
You're concentrating all that rotational energy into a small, dense projectile. It hits hard.
So that power plus the ammo advantage we talked about. What else? Why pick a sling?
Well, ammunition is huge. Free, portable, even if you use fancy ammo like lead sinkers or ball bearings, it's still cheap compared to arrows or bullets.
Right.
It's quiet, very little noise when you use it. Good for hunting or, sneaking around
And range is decent.
with practice.
Yeah.
Savage suggests 100 yards is achievable with stones. It's also super portable.
Fits in a pocket.
Easily. Lightweight, easy to hide, quick to get ready too.
Plus, I suppose the cord itself could be useful for other things.
True, multiple uses.
Hmm.
And the basics, pretty easy to learn. Getting good takes practice, obviously, but making one costs next to nothing. Lots of plus points.
Okay, lots of advantages, but let's stack it up against the bow. That's the classic ranged weapon comparison, isn't it?
It is. Range is interesting. Savage says a good 60-pound bow might get you 300 yards.
Okay.
But, and this is cool, specialized sling bullets, like lead ones, have apparently been recorded going over 400 yards.
Over 400, seriously.
That's what the source indicates.
Mhm.
But, that's probably peak performance, expert user kind of thing. Your average slinger isn't hitting that. Skill matters hugely.
Gotcha. So maximum potential might favor the sling, but maybe not typical use. What about hitting power?
Okay, so if you release both with the same force, the sling bullet, being smaller and denser usually.
Hits harder, more concentrated force.
Generally, yeah. Less surface area, punches through better. Think small, dense pebble versus, I don't know, a bigger, lighter thing at the same speed.
Makes sense. But the bow must have some advantages, right? Accuracy, speed.
Oh, definitely. Accuracy is usually better with a bow, especially if you're not like a lifelong slinger. It's just inherently more stable, easier to aim consistently for most people.
And follow-up shots.
Faster with a bow. Knocking an arrow is quicker than fiddling a stone into a sling pouch while trying not to drop it.
Okay, so accuracy, rate of fire, probably lean towards the bow.
Generally, yes.
But the sling wins on ammo, concealment. What else?
It handles bad weather better. Rain doesn't mess up a lead or sling like it can a bowstring or wooden bow.
Good point.
Again, ammo cost and availability is just, it's a massive difference. Legally, too, Savage points out bows sometimes have rules, but slings, often less defined, which could be convenient sometimes.
So it's really swings and roundabouts. Depends what you need it for.
Exactly. Different tools for different jobs, different users, no single best.
Right. Okay, let's move to actually using one. If someone wanted to try this, what's the first thing they need to know?
Safety. Absolutely number one.
Yeah.
Savage hammers this home. It's a weapon, potentially lethal.
So treat it seriously.
Totally. Practice far away from people, animals, cars, houses, anything valuable or fragile. Know where that stone might go, even if you miss wildly. Think about ricochets, too.
Good point. Where's a good place to practice, then? Not the backyard, probably.
Definitely not the backyard. Big open fields are best. Away from roads, buildings. Beaches can work, sometimes railway tracks. They often have suitable stones lying around. Anywhere with space and a safe backdrop.
Okay, location sorted. How does the basic throw actually work? You hold it. How?
Okay, so you've got the loop, the retention shank. That usually goes over your index finger.
Dominant hand.
Yeah, dominant hand. Then you put the stone in the socket, that central pouch,
Mm-hmm.
and you hold the other cord, the release cord, between your thumb and forefinger. Firm grip, but not like a death grip.
Got it. Then you swing.
And you swing. Usually overhead is the basic way.
Yeah.
And at just the right moment in the swing, you let go of that release cord. Sing!
And you keep hold of the looped end.
Right, the retention shank stays in your finger. It's like you're using the sling to add a big rotational whip to your normal throwing motion.
Is there a specific stance, feet position?
Yeah. Stability helps. Savage suggests feet shoulder width apart, relaxed. Your non-dominant foot slightly forward gives you a solid base to swing from.
Okay, so that's the basic overhead hurl. Start behind, swing up and over, release at the top.
Pretty much. Smooth arc. The tricky part is the timing of the release. That takes practice, lots of practice, getting that muscle memory down for accuracy and distance.
Makes sense. But that's not the only way to throw it, is it? The source mentions other standard hurls, underhand.
Yeah, the underhand. Often easier for beginners. You swing it downwards like a pendulum and release.
Less power, maybe?
Usually less power than the overhand, yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe better for shorter distances, or if you're trying to be a bit less obvious with your movement.
Less obvious, right. Then there's the helicopter hurl. Sounds dramatic.
It is a bit more complex. You spin the sling horizontally over your head, like helicopter blades. This can get you serious range and a flatter trajectory, which could be good. But keeping the stone in the socket during that fast spin and timing the release just right as it comes around, that takes real skill. Harder to master.
I can imagine. So those are the main three. But then Savage talks about combination hurls. Why mix them up?
Well, each standard hurl has pros and cons, right? Power, accuracy, how easy it feels. Combination hurls try to blend the best bits, Or maybe just find a style that feels more natural for the thrower. It's about experimenting.
Finding your groove.
Sort of, yeah.
And he mentions two specific combos, figure eight and sidearm sling. What's the figure eight like?
It mixes underhand and overhand elements. Swing the stone in a figure-8 pattern in front of you before you let go, trying to get some power like the overhand, but maybe a bit more control.
I can picture that motion. And the sidearm sling.
That was described as a mix of the helicopter and the underhand. The throwing action looks a lot like a sidearm baseball pitch. Can generate good power, and since it's not fully overhead, may be useful if you don't have a ton of vertical space, or just prefer that motion.
Fascinating how many ways there are to just fling a rock. Okay, what about making one? Materials.
Pretty flexible, actually. Savage says any strong fabric can work for the socket. Cloth, leather, even tough plastic sheeting.
Leather sounds classic, though.
Yeah, leather's durable, traditional. Good choice. For the cords, you can use leather strips, too. Or just strong, modern cordage like nylon. Easy to find.
So basic design is always that socket and two cords.
Yep, that's the core. Cord length varies, maybe 1 foot, maybe up to 3.5 feet. Depends on you, your arm length, what you prefer.
How do you actually put it together? Cut the socket.
Right. Oval shape, maybe diamond. Then you need to attach the cord securely. Cut slits or punch holes in the socket ends.
And tie the cords on.
Yeah, strong knots, slip knots, half hitches, something that won't pull loose. Make sure the loop for your finger and the knot on the release end are comfortable and functional.
Anything else?
Savage mentions a neat trick for leather slings. Soak it in water when it's finished, then let it dry. Helps it sort of mold into shape, become a bit more supple.
Clever tip. Are there lots of variations on this basic design?
Some minor ones. You might see simple ones cut from a single piece of leather, socket, and cords all in one.
Oh.
Or cords sewn firmly into the socket, maybe fancy finger loops or even metal rings sometimes for durability on the retention part. Mostly refinements, though.
And then there's the staff sling. That sounds different.
It is. Big difference. It's basically a normal sling, but one cord is attached to the end of a stick or a pole.
Like a walking stick length?
Could be. 1 foot, maybe up to 4 feet long.
Yeah.
The staff gives you extra leverage.
To throw bigger things.
Exactly. Much heavier stuff Savage mentions, like a pound or more. You get more force, but you'll lose accuracy and probably range compared to a hand sling.
So it's for lobbing heavy projectiles, not precision work.
Right. Historically, think siege engines.
Yeah.
Throwing big stones at walls, that kind of thing.
The heavy artillery version. Got it. Okay, ammunition. We know stones are the obvious choice.
Absolutely. Free, plentiful. Savage notes prehistoric folks often picked smooth, roundish ones, or even shaped them a bit. Archaeologists find caches of them sometimes.
Stockpiles of ammo. Smart. But they got fancier over time.
Yeah. They started making shaped clay missiles.
Right.
Just sun-dried clay shaped for better flight.
Aerodynamic.
Right. And then later, lead missiles, often egg-shaped or pointed at both ends biconical.
Yeah.
Heavier, flew better, hit harder.
And those are the ones they sometimes rode on.
Yeah, we mentioned the Balearic slingers finding lead bullets with names or messages carved in.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. A direct link to the person using it.
Wild. What about nowadays? If you were using a sling, what ammo works?
Pretty much anything that fits the socket and isn't too light or weirdly shaped. Rocks, obviously. But also marbles, lead fishing weights, steel ball bearings. Those give you consistency.
Better accuracy.
Generally, yeah. More uniform weight and shape helps. In a pinch, though, Savage says you could use nuts, bolts, bits of glass, or whatever's handy in a survival situation. Just got to be careful with stuff that might break or damage the sling.
So heavier and rounder is generally better.
That seems to be the rule of thumb. More predictable flight, but don't go too heavy or use sharp stuff that could cut the sling or hurt your arm. Common sense.
Right. Okay, we've covered history, mechanics, making one, ammo. Let's pull it all together. Practical uses today. Is it just a historical curiosity?
Not entirely. Savage lists a few things. Simple fun for starters. Entertainment.
Like a slingshot, but different.
Kind of. Skipping stones with extra zip. Target practice. Just enjoying the skill of it.
Is it a sport at all? Organized?
Not really a major sport, no. But he suggests accuracy challenges could be a thing, like trying to hit golf balls at a distance. A niche sport, maybe.
Okay. What about more serious uses?
Yeah.
Hunting?
Yes, potentially. It's quiet, which is a big plus for hunting small game. But hitting a moving target accurately takes a lot of practice.
I bet. Agriculture, how would that work?
Historically, yeah. Herding animals, gently persuading them with a well-aimed pebble, maybe. Or scaring birds off crops. Non-lethal pest control.
Huh. Never thought of that. Wilderness survival. Seems like it would shine there.
Definitely. Savage highlights this. Defense against animals, getting small game for food, maybe even signaling. And the best part, ammo is usually lying all over the ground. Simple, effective, uses natural resources, great survival tool.
Makes a lot of sense. And the last one, the one that raises eyebrows maybe, urban warfare.
Yeah, we touched on it. Savage brings it up in the context of situations with conflict where maybe firearms aren't available or allowed.
So concealability matters. Improvised ammo.
Exactly. It's an option of last resort. Obviously, its effectiveness compared to, modern weapons is limited, but it is a potential tool in certain very specific, difficult circumstances.
So quite a journey. From prehistoric hunters to potentially modern conflicts, it's really adds staying power.
It really has. Just shows how effective a simple idea based on basic physics and available materials can be. Ingenious, really.
Well, this has been fascinating. A proper deep dive into the sling. We've seen its incredible history, its surprising power, the advantages, the techniques, how to make one, what to throw. It's covered a lot of ground.
It's easy to overlook something so simple, but it really was a significant piece of technology for a very, very long time.
It really was. Makes you appreciate that ancient ingenuity.
Definitely.
So thinking about the sling, its simplicity, its effectiveness, how long it lasted, it leaves me wondering what other seemingly old or outdated technologies are out there, maybe overlooked, that might still have some surprising relevance or potential we haven't thought about in our modern world.
That's a good question to ponder.
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.